cases, benefits, so on and so forth. Okay? Are you guys ready? So we will talk about why Laserfiche is important for your organizations. We will look at the core functionality of the product. So in other words, we'll look at all the important components available for you. And what I'll also do throughout the presentation is give you follow-up classes that you can attend for this presentation. Okay? So if you like something like workflow, I'll tell you which classes to attend for workflow. All right? Let's get the party started. So why Laserfiche? We are the world's largest privately owned enterprise content management company. Woohoo! Right? So we have over 35,000 organizations using Laserfiche, and over 5 million users regularly log into the software. Proof is in the pudding. We are present in every corner of the globe. Even for today's conference, we have 2,700 people coming in from around the world. That itself is a testament of what our software is. So throughout the presentation, I will talk about how Laserfiche can maximize your organization's efficiency. We will talk about how Laserfiche can enable automation. So we will look at how business processes can be automated using Laserfiche. We will look at how Laserfiche can be integrated with your existing software applications. And finally, balance of access and control. I'll talk about the components that let you securely store your information in Laserfiche. Okay? So Laserfiche Suite, we have a lot of ground to cover, like I said. So I divided the entire product suite into 5 major focus areas. We will start with capture. So we will look at the components that are available to bring information into Laserfiche. Then we will look at how you can search and retrieve that information. We will look at how to use Laserfiche components to automate your existing manual business processes. And then we will look at the components available to distribute this information, both to internal stakeholders as well as external stakeholders. And finally, like I said, we will talk about securing your information and the components that enable you to securely store information in Laserfiche. So let's start off with capture. Everyone here knows what capture is, right? Bringing information into the software. So let's look at the components that are available to capture information. So we will talk about the first 5, drag and drop, office integration, snapshot, scanning, import agent. And we'll spend a bit more time on forms and quick fields. Okay? So drag and drop, we understand how drag and drop works, right? Drag your file and drop it into Laserfiche repository. Straightforward. Any questions? I know you guys don't have any questions. The office integration. So we all love our office applications. If you're anything like me, I spend most of my time in inbox, Outlook inbox. If you want to push information from your office applications into Laserfiche, you can click on Laserfiche tab on the top, click on Save to Laserfiche, and that information is automatically pushed into Laserfiche. You don't have to manually go back and forth between your Microsoft applications and Laserfiche. Right? Snapshot. Snapshot lets you digitally save documents into Laserfiche. So instead of printing a document and scanning it back into Laserfiche, you can directly print them into Laserfiche repository. So let's take an example of CAD file, right? You can, using Snapshot, you can print it into Laserfiche as a TIFF image. Right? And one other point here, Laserfiche doesn't care the file type. If you store CAD files in Laserfiche, you can open them as CAD files. There is no file conversions. All your files stay in their native format. Okay? Scanning, we know what scanning is. Scan information into Laserfiche. We have two modes available for scanning information, basic mode and standard mode. Basic mode is when you bring in one document at a time, ad hoc style, use basic mode. And standard mode is more of, if you're bringing a bunch of documents and they need despeckling, deskewing, which are really fancy words for, cleaning up your image, right? So you can do those things using standard scan. Import agent monitors your network drives and pulls information from them automatically into Laserfiche. That way, your employees doesn't have to manually push information into Laserfiche. It's done by import agent. It monitors your network drives, it monitors your MFP servers, it monitors your fax servers, and just keeps pulling information into Laserfiche. Forms, like I promised, we are going to spend a bit more time on forms. Forms lets you capture unstructured content, right? I'm just going to make sure I cover all the points. There's a lot of points to cover here. So it lets you capture unstructured content. In other words, if you are starting off a process by filling out a paper, scanning it into your email, attaching it into your email, and sending it to your whoever you need to send it to, do you even need to start that process using physical paper if you're then converting it into digital paper, right? You can start capturing information using electronic forms, right? Makes sense, right? Why do you write on a physical paper and then convert it into a PDF document? So fill out the Laserfiche form and submit the form. These forms are extremely intuitive. Our people love our forms application. When you're networking later on, talk to people to talk about how they are using Laserfiche forms in their organization, if they are. Every organization's use case is different. It will open up your mind. Even as Laserfiche employees, we see some installations and we are like, this is great, right? Yeah, make sure you talk about forms. And also, it's our one of the hottest selling applications. If you don't have forms, get it. Again, this is not a sales class, so I'm not gonna ask you guys to buy anything, but make sure you have forms. You can change the way your organizations work using forms application. Every time I talk about forms, I keep reminding myself about this example. I was talking to a colleague of mine about 6 months ago who oversees Michigan. And one of his clients in Michigan, they purchased forms for Rio. As part of that purchase, their VAR stands for value-added reseller. Their value-added reseller trained the entire IT department on forms. And one of the person that was trained on forms was a college student. He recently joined the IT team as an administrative assistant. He had no IT background, none whatsoever, right? And he took it upon himself to go around the company to various business units, see the forms they're using, and digitized all of them using Laserfiche electronic forms. As a result, all of their processes that have a starting point of paper forms now have Laserfiche forms, and the processes were streamlined. The reason I mentioned he was inexperienced and he had no IT background is because you don't need either of them to use forms application. It's extremely intuitive. There is no coding necessary. You can design your forms, go to forms application, and you can just drag and drop and start designing your forms. And you can publish them within no time. So once you go back to your offices, make sure you use forms, right? The next application I want to talk about is Quick Fields. Quick Fields is our batch processing tool. It will enable you to bring in a bunch of documents at the same time. You can load up the sessions. This is what a quick field session looks like. This is the document that was pulled in. Quick Fields has the ability to read information of the documents, automatically fill out templates, metadata, and file the documents into respective Laserfiche folders. Right? Instead of your staff manually scanning them, entering template information into templates, entering metadata, Laserfiche Quick Fields can do all of that for us. I hear some, that's really nice on this side. So it can also read information. It can read barcodes. It can clean up images. We also have, one other thing that it could do is, as I said, it can extract information from the pages and fill out templates, right? Let's take an example. So let's look at invoices, vendor invoices coming into your organization. We all have vendor invoices coming in, right? So we have no control over how these invoices look like. They come in all shapes, sizes, and forms, right? And anyone here from accounting? Isn't it a pain to work with those invoices, right? So we don't have any control over on what the invoices look like. But what we do have control over is the purchase order number that has been generated on our side that they put on the invoice. So we can make quick fields, find that PO number, enter it into the template, and validate that information from a database. So as soon as it finds the table, okay, it's this PO number, so it's got to be this company, this amount, so on and so forth. And it fills all of that information into templates. And you can, and information is, these documents are stored in Laserfiche, like I said. It saves a lot of time for accounting folks. That's one simple example I could think of, but I can think of a myriad examples on how our clients in Canada are using Quick Fields. Quick Fields Agent, it lets you run unattended sessions, right? So you don't have to be there physically to run these Quick Field sessions. So a benefit I could think of is you could run Quick Field sessions at off-peak hours so that your resources are used more effectively. Right? So that's about quick fields. Now let's look at an example. So City of Elgin, anyone here from City of Elgin? Okay, so it's a city from the suburbs of Chicago. Before Laserfiche was implemented, they would send these 10-page booklets to their 800-odd employees. That booklets had information on their medical, vision, health insurance. They have to manually check each box in the 10-page booklet. And the staff have to send these booklets back to human resources. By the end of the month in January, usually we get those booklets in January, right? So by the end of the month, HR department would have about 8,000 papers of information. And human resources employees have to manually go through all these all these paper. If they had any omissions, if they need any corrections, they had to send it back to the employee, make them fill them again, and receive those packets. You can see that this is a pretty painful process, right? So at some point, it was getting out of hand. The HR department can no longer do it, and Laserfiche was implemented. Post Laserfiche, it has boiled down to a couple of steps. The staff would get a link in an email in January with their booklet, which is a Laserfiche form that you're seeing here. As soon as the staff enters the last 4 digits of their social security number and their last name, all the information all their previous year's preferences were auto-populated into the form. If the staff chose to make any changes, they would make those changes. Or else, that form is submitted and is received by HR department. Right? As a result of this business process streamlining, HR department saved 350 hours, which translated into about $15,000 in savings. Right? I'm sure as you see this example, you have business processes that are paper intensive in your organizations. Tackle them. After you go back from the conference, take it upon yourself and start streamlining your processes. You'll be surprised. All right. So now let's look at searching and retrieving the information. So far, we saved everything into Laserfiche. Now let's look at searching and retrieving information. It's 2016, right? We should have information at our fingertips. Why are you laughing, ma'am? I see a few smiles here, right? How many of you truly can access your organization's information at fingertips? Raise your hand. I fully understand. So search and retrieve, let's look at the components available to search and retrieve information. So we have 3 components: web access, client, and mobile. So web access lets you log into Laserfiche repository via browser. So let's say you're vacationing in Hawaii. You can log into your repository via web access. Right? Client, we all know what client is, desktop client, mobile. I put a screenshot of web access here, so you can search for information from this field, from this box here, I should say. This is a basic search, and this is the advanced search. You can search on various things. You can search on words, you can search by date, you can search by the time when the document came into the repository, the people who submitted the document. If these documents are part of workflows, you can search on, you can use the name of the workflow as a parameter. Document types, all kinds of things. There are, I think, about 70 to 80 different search functions available, and you can use them in conjunction with each other. So you do this in web access, the same thing in client mobile as well. Similar functionality. Mobile, obviously it's a lighter version because it's a repository on the go. Things would be slightly different, but the core is still the same. The philosophy is we should be able to let you find your information, find your documents, by knowing very little about those documents. Okay? So this seems like an apt example given that we are in Long Beach, right? So before Laserfiche was implemented in Long Beach Police Department, if the cops stopped someone on the street, this is what they would do. The police officer would call the dispatcher. They would call the pickup operator, call the records clerk, and give information like license information, registration information to the clerk. And the clerk would quickly pull information from their file system. Or if they didn't have an electronic file system, they had to go through physical boxes to find if there were any outstanding warrants on that person. And that information will be sent back the same chain of command. Records clerk, pickup operator, radio dispatcher, police officer. Right? Once Laserfiche was implemented, no longer were there 3 layers of people between the police and the information that he needed to do his job. I'm sure a lot of us in this room have multiple layers of people between you and the information that you are trying to retrieve? No? Yes? Well, most of you are using Laserfiche, right? So maybe you don't. So police officer would sit in his cruiser, type in the license registration information into Laserfiche, and would instantly pull up your information. So when you're in Long Beach, don't drink and drive, because police is going to find your information in the system, or do overspeed or anything like that. So as a result of this, crime has been the lowest in 40 years in Long Beach. Gang-related crimes went down by 54%, and shootings decreased by 13%. I think this example is a testimony of what could happen if you give instant access to information to your employees. So now let's look at automating information. So far, we looked at how to capture information into Laserfiche and how to search and retrieve that information. Now let's look at automating that information, right? So for automating information, we have three important components. We have forms, we have workflow, and we have business processes. We talk about forms in this area from an automation angle. So let's look at forms. So in the previous example, while we were talking about capture, I talked about how a user would come, fill in the form, submit the form. What would happen to that information? Right? Where would that information go? What happens to that information? So there are so many things that you could do with that information. You could route that information for approval, alerting people, sending email notifications, and then saving it into a repository. So in this screenshot here, someone is asking for an approval. If the person does it, it's complete. If he doesn't do it, it sends an email reminder. And if it still is not approved, an email is sent to their manager so that they can approve as a backup approval person. So that's essentially what Forms Business Processes Modeler lets us accomplish. Automating our existing complex, manual, repetitive, all those things can be easily automated using forms. So either this information could be routed, sent for approvals, alerts, notifications, like I said, and can end up in a repository, or it could be handed off to a workflow, right? So workflow will pick up from here. So let's look at workflow. So it automates repetitive processes, repetitive tasks, enforces business logic. Oops. So the slogan here is, if you can draw it, you can build it. How many here want to automate some of their business processes? I was thinking of an example for this, and I was like, I'll give you a personal example. So currently I'm on a business trip, right? And my, it's been a week since I came to California, and I'm loving it. So I have expenses, so my food bills, cab bills, so on and so forth. So I took pictures of those receipts, and I attached them to a Laserfiche form, filled out my employee ID, my name, and then submitted the form. As soon as that form was submitted, my manager, who is in Luxembourg, she gets an email saying that expense request has been submitted by this employee. Let's face it, my manager is not sitting there waiting to approve my expenses, right? She has bigger fish to fry, so to speak. So most likely I have to awkwardly send another email to her asking her to approve my expenses, right? You know, it is awkward, right? So, and you know, she sees the email, and then if she has any questions, she can send me an email. And I travel quite a bit, so one of us might drop the ball on this expense submission or approval. And let's say we both figure out everything, so she approves my expenses, and that expense report will be sent to my accounting in Laserfiche Canada. And again, it's the same story again. I have to send an email to my accountant in the office asking, can you please put that money into my account, right? So workflow takes away all those repetitive tasks. It does the grunt work for us. It's almost like having a virtual personal assistant for us, right? If this happens, do this. If not, do this, so on and so forth. Right? That's why if you can draw it, you can build it using Laserfiche workflow. Anything that is predictable, repeatable, can be automated using Laserfiche workflow. Every organization has business processes, and all of those processes can be automated using Laserfiche workflow. Let's look at business processes. It extends the functionality of workflow with a single click of a button, right? You can have customizable instructions. You can give history to anyone involved in a business process. They can look at instructions in the business process pane. So let's say you have a new employee that came on board, and he's part of a business process, but he's not fully trained on anything yet. He can just click on the business process pane and see what the next steps need to be. So an example I could think of is, let's say he gets an invoice. He's an accountant. He gets an invoice for $10,000. He's going to go to the business process pane and say, yes, I can approve this. You can put instruction here saying, if this invoice is under $12,000, approve it. If it's over $12,000, reject it. And he can leverage business process pane for that. You can also generate reports easily based on information like average step completion time, so on and so forth, using business processes. You can also start a business process yourself at a document level. So you have a document open, just click on Start Business Process. You can kick off a business process. So you don't have to wait for anyone. All right. Now, let's move to distributing information, right? So we captured information. We now have information at our fingertips. We know the components that let us easily search and retrieve information. We know the components that lets us automate our existing business processes. Now, let's look at how Laserfiche will enable you to distribute this information, both to internal stakeholders as well as external stakeholders. Okay? So, under content distribution, we have two important components. We have public portal, which is also called WebLink, and we have Laserfiche discussions, part of social BPM. Who here has public portal? Some of you do. Okay. So, public portal, it essentially lets you grant read-only access to documents via internet browser. Let's say you have a bunch of documents that can be given access to your end users, customers, vendors, contractors, taxpayers if you're a city, municipality. You can put all of that in a repository and publish that section of a repository online using WebLink. So one of the common use cases is, a municipality trying to give information to their taxpayers. We all know FOIA requests, right? Freedom of Information Act requests. Either you're working for a city or you're a taxpayer, right? So FOIA requests, you can request information on anything from your city clerk's office, and they would give you that information. You can know how your tax money is being spent on various things, so that sort of thing. So I have an example reserved for you, but let's talk about the screenshot. So here, this is WebLink folder structure. You can search for information here. Remember that this is read-only access, so you can just retrieve information. Okay. That is the most common use case. Municipalities using it to give information to their taxpayers, but we are seeing a lot of organizations now using WebLink as a portal, so to speak. So they would have their vendors, contractors, customers, log into that portal and retrieve information that's specific to them. Recently, we started off on a project in Canada. We are working with one of the bigger law firms in Canada. They want to use WebLink as a portal, so all their clients can log into the portal and retrieve information that's specific to them. Okay, so that's a public portal. Like I said, I have an example for you guys. So City of O'Fallon, before Laserfiche was implemented, the city clerk's office would get Freedom of Information Access request emails from taxpayers asking about all kinds of things, how their money was being spent, so on and so forth, right? Sometimes it would take them up to 2 months to respond back to those emails. And you can imagine how mad the taxpayers would be if the city clerk's office takes 2 months to respond back to the requests, right? So after Laserfiche WebLink was implemented, they would just give a link to that to the portal. And the users would go into the portal and find whatever information they need themselves. As I dig more into this example, I found that a couple of years ago there were lawyers who were trying to find information about a construction project. And as soon as they got the email, they pointed them to WebLink. And the lawyers were able to immediately retrieve the information. And as a result, the law office is happy, city clerk's office is happy. We don't want unhappy lawyers around us, right? So that's WebLink. Now, let's look at the next distribution tool, which is Laserfiche Discussions. Have you guys used Laserfiche Answers? Anyone? Laserfiche Answers? Some of you guys. So let me explain what Laserfiche Answers is. Laserfiche Answers is a social collaboration platform for the entire Laserfiche community. So all of that you're seeing here today is replicated online at Laserfiche Answers. You can create groups, you can talk to people, you can post questions, you can respond to questions. It's entire Laserfiche community online. Laserfiche Discussions essentially is Laserfiche Answers, but just for your organization. Okay, so think of it as Yammer, Slack, or Facebook just for your organization. Okay, you can post questions. You can collaborate with people on projects. If you have a question about a document, let's say you open a document, but you're not quite sure about what's going on in the document. From there, you can start off a discussion about the document with your colleagues. Instead of going to your instant messenger or GChat, you can collaborate right then and there. So that's a screenshot, posting questions. There's also gamification built into it, which means you can earn rewards. You can search on people who has the highest rewards, and because they'll likely have better answers. So it's 6 p.m. on Thursday. You're stuck on something. Post a question. Either on discussions or the previous example that we talked about, Laserfiche Answers. And somewhere around the world, it's morning for them, 9 a.m. They know the answer and they're going to respond back to you. So if you have questions, make sure you visit Laserfiche Answers. We will talk more about Laserfiche Answers in the next few slides, but discussions is a very powerful tool for your intra-company collaboration. Final one is securing information. So in this section, we will talk about Laserfiche's flexible security. We will talk about Laserfiche records management component, as well as Audit Trail. So we do all these great things with your information. We let you instantly search for your information. We automated your complex business processes. We now let you seamlessly share your information both with internal and external stakeholders. But what good is the software if it can't protect your information? Right? So for that, we have the set components. Laserfiche has extremely flexible security, so you can fully customize your security needs using Laserfiche. You can create a repository level security, you can customize it to a folder level, you can take it to even a document level, right? What I mean by document level security is we have a document with a lot of important information in the document, and you want to share it with a group of 10 people. One thing on that piece of document is social security number, and you don't want that number to be seen by everyone. You can redact that piece of information. Anyone here uses redaction tool? Right? So there's few people using redaction. So you can fully customize your security needs. You can also customize security by employee groups, by employee type, to give you a few examples. Let's take a quick example. We have Alex from accounting department, Ralph from records department, and Matt from human resources. All three guys log into the same Laserfiche repository, but everyone's view will be different. Let's take the analogy of physical filing cabinet. All these guys walk to the filing cabinet, they open the filing cabinet, they see the same information inside. Right? So you can fully customize your security. Then let's look at records management. So information moved through all these different stages, right? We have all this important information in Laserfiche. It goes through different stages. Where does the information finally end up in Laserfiche? It ends up in Laserfiche records management folders, right? How many of you here have constant requests from various business units asking for information to be stored for different periods of time? Your accounting might ask you to store their invoices for 7 years. Records might ask you to store their records for 50 years. And human resources might ask, right? So you can set your records properties using the records property pane here. So I took a screenshot of that. You can set cutoff instructions. You can set retention schedules here. So if you can't read it, I'm just going to read it for you. It says 3 years, then destroy. You can set final disposition locations, whether it ends up in an offsite storage or wherever, right? You can designate whether the records are vital or not. So vital records are the records that are absolutely important for the day-to-day survival or running of your business. So you select them as vital records, and Laserfiche reviews the integrity of those vital records constantly and sends you reports. All of this could be customized, right? Your business needs will be completely different from the person sitting next to you. And you can customize everything here. Laserfiche has, because of all the components that are available to secure your information, we have something called DoD 5015.2 certification. DoD stands for Department of Defense, so it's a defense certification. Very few softwares can boast of this certification. We have, you obviously saw the example of Long Beach Police Department. We have several immigration authorities around the world using Laserfiche, organizations like FBI using our product. And if you think about it, securing information is extremely important for them, right? And for us to even bid to those contracts, we need to have the certification. So rest assured, your information is completely safe in Laserfiche. Okay. Another benefit that I want to talk about with records management is I live in Toronto. If anyone here is familiar with the Canadian geography, I live in Toronto. And the place where I live, that municipality actually uses Laserfiche. So I happened to talk to that records manager a few times. And before Laserfiche was implemented, if she got freedom of information access request, or even any kind of request, she had to go to the offsite storage that is about 100 kilometers away from their office, get those documents, get that information, and respond to the people. Now that they have Laserfiche records management, they can store everything in records management folders, and they would just access it from there. It saves a lot of time, right? Audit Trail. Audit Trail essentially makes sure that all the information is secure in Laserfiche. You can run reports using Audit Trail. Like the name suggests, it audits your software. You can see who logged in, when they logged in, where they logged in from, what they're trying to access. Right? So who, what, when, and where actions occur. So in this screenshot here, the user is trying to get all the actions that happened. So all events in the past day, any deletions that happened, failed logons, page creations. That's what the user wants to get information on, and he is downloading this audit report. This helps you to stay in compliance with your legal, industry requirements, so on and so forth. So you just download your reports, and you know that your information is secure, right? Now, so far we talked about 5 major focus areas. There are a couple of components that I wanted to talk about, but I didn't, feel like putting them in those 5 major areas. So let's talk very quickly about connector, SDK, and social BPM. Laserfiche connector essentially lets you integrate Laserfiche with other software applications at a very basic level. So example, you have Salesforce, CRM, you open Chan's account, see my information, but you want to see my information at a greater detail. So you want to see all the correspondence that happened with me, all the emails that were sent to Chan. Just click on Laserfiche button from your Salesforce application, just a small button on the top right-hand corner. It will pull my information instantly in Laserfiche. It's like creating a bridge between your existing application and Laserfiche. right? We have SDK, software development kit. If you want to integrate Laserfiche with other applications at a more deeper level, at a code level, get SDK. It's the same code library used by our developers. Social BPM. We already talked about one of the components in Social BPM previously. So this is a document, and this is the discussions pane on the right-hand side. Couple other smaller things. It can be, we have integrated Social BPM components into existing Laserfiche applications like forms, workflow, so on and so forth. So let's say you open up a form, right? And you have a question about that form. Go to your frequently asked questions and look at the list of questions. If you cannot find your question in that FAQ pane, start a discussion from there. Right? We are working on a project right now in Canada. They have their job applications online on the website. So, college students or whoever, they want to, if they want to find a job, they would open up the application. They would open up the Laserfiche form and start filling out the information. If they have questions on the job they're applying for, they can go through FAQ. If they still have more questions, they can ask a question. Right? Then we have Laserfiche discussions that I already talked about previously. Thank you guys for joining my class, and you have a wonderful rest of the conference.